Well, all right. Hello and welcome to Black Box Radio. I actually hit the go live button by mistake, so I thought I would just keep on going and kind of just went through a couple screens and turned this into a live stream. I guess, I just thought about talking about a few things. I don't even know what to really make of this live streaming stuff, but on Black Box Radio, we got a few things coming up. We're going to be revisiting the case of Brandon Lawson. I really hope to talk more about Brandon Lawson because the first upload came out seemed to be, I don't know, somewhat of kind of a hot topic with the commenters, and I don't know. I think we're coming close to making some breakthroughs in that particular case. I think we're coming close to making some sort of developments. And on this channel, I'm really hoping that we're going to actually be able to contribute something to the discussions. The people who are commenting on the uploads here on BBOR are excellent. And we also have some other things, that are going to be in the works. Going to be revisiting a few more suspects in the Zodiac killer mystery. And, I received a comment, from the one who was just asking about why don't I cover some more of the lesser known suspects in the Zodiac killer mystery. Well, what I was really trying to do was on this channel, I really wanted to look at the possibility of whether or not we could confirm or eliminate a suspect as plausible or just rule them out 100%. Wouldn't that just be absolutely brilliant if a channel like BBOR could actually do something like that? And you might be wondering, like, why does it say BBOR instead of just Black Box Radio? Well, the original name of the channel was Black Box Online Radio, but I thought that was too long to put up in the YouTube name, so I shortened it to Black Box Radio, but I still introduce the shows in the same ways. BBOR, Black Box Online Radio, coming to you from West Virginia. But to Black Box Radio looks a little bit better when you're looking for, suggested videos and stuff and such. Now, the other things that we're going to be dealing with on this channel are the upcoming elections in 2020. For about really, it's been over a year, really, but I've been talking about the presidential election in 2020. I know that that isn't a popular subject on this channel, but it's, something fascinating for me to kind of discuss. And I love the comments that I've had on a few people, except for that one guy who called Jeff Merkley an idiot. Yeah, no, I don't love that type of rhetoric, but those are just some things that we have going on. And when we actually want to introduce some sort of new things to the channel, I'm hoping to do at least one more upload on Moore Murray to actually explore the possibility that we're going to be having, you know, some sort of new theories that we could discuss, maybe some new possibilities, and I really would like to try and get some more definitive answers. I'm hoping that a channel like this would actually have the ability to kind of really answer some of the tough questions out there, really answer some of the tough questions about all the true crime cases, but especially with the ones that we're going to be talking about: Brandon Lawson, Maura Murray, and the Zodiac Killer. I know we can just sort of do an introduction to any single true crime case out there, but what I would really like is if we could actually maybe contribute to solving a mystery. Wouldn't that just be amazing? And it's not only going to be with me. I mean, I can't really solve everything. I really just need, excellent people to write excellent comments. And then that can lead to the possibility of understanding, something very, very profound. I mean, like, the way we discuss things in the comments section, I really think is contributing to a lot. And when we do the Q&A session on Brandon Lawson that's going to be coming up, I think we're going to see some kind of new groundbreaking. Oh, it's been quite a while since we talked about anything associated with O.J. Simpson as well. I just can't stay away from that one. I've been following that one for years. I was a big fan of the American Crime Story, O.J. Simpson episodes with Cuba Gooding Jr., David Schwimmer, John Travolta, that whole thing. Yeah, O.J. Simpson is just a case we can't get away from because it feels like once you understand everything, they just unload these sort of aspects of, doubt and uncertainty, and they just kind of spread all of these things to you that makes you re-question the case. So I would like to do at least a couple more uploads on the case of O.J. Simpson. And now, when we sort of look at some other things associated with the True Crime channel, I want to keep talking about John Bonet. We're going to talk about John Bonet Ramsey a little more. I would say that we have kind of a good understanding of the case, but there are a lot of documentaries out there. There are a lot of films out there. I was a really big fan of Lawrence Schiller and Perfect Murder, Perfect Town, the 3-hour miniseries. I loved that. Lifetime did their original movie about the case of Jean-Benet Ramsey, which I also thought was very, it was only entertaining because they had discussions of the theories. They actually were discussing the theories that were going on in the particular case and the particular, like, they're just like people are kind of just arguing the likelihood of certain theories associated with Jean-Benet Ramsey, and to put that in a feature film, I thought, was kind of a bold choice. Also, they made the character of Detective Linda Arndt seem much more likable than she actually is. And I thought about doing an entire upload on the possibility of, Linda Arndt's theory. And Linda Arndt's theory is halfway between Detective Linda Arndt and what was expressed in the comments section, because people in the comments section are saying Linda Arndt believes John Ramsey murdered his daughter. She's just not calling him out by name. But John Ramsey came up with an interesting idea that he talked about when he was promoting his book, The Other Side of Suffering, when he was saying that, like, there is this new idea that they wanted to put forward, that any time you are fingerprinted at a police station, I repeat, every time you are fingerprinted at a police station, they will take your fingerprints and your DNA at the same time. And if they put that DNA into a massive database, then we are going to solve 1,000 crimes in the first day, because they could actually answer all the questions about who's committing the crimes, where they're going, and they can actually get answers to all of these questions. And I don't know if something like that is currently in the works, but DNA is so powerful. It's because of DNA that we were able to solve the identity, at least, of the murder of Marcia King. They were able to identify her, formerly known as the Buckskin Girl, and, discussing that with someone on this channel, CY0031. CY and I had a chance to correspond about the case of Marcia King, and we were really promoting the theory that she was murdered by a trucker, and, like, maybe a gentleman older than her, not involved in any relationship, but we can always revisit Marcia King. Some of the other true crime cases that I hope to get into: Maria Ridulph, Henry McCabe. Maria Ridulph was, of course, murdered back in the 1950s. Henry McCabe was a Liberian American that was found dead in Minneapolis in a lake. It's just, there's this enormous concept of people who are around a body of water and they are found dead. They die when they're around a body of water, especially, I repeat, especially when they are with, the concept of intoxication is involved. And, it's not only a lake or a river, because we also had the case of Elisa Lamb. And Elisa Lamb was found dead in a water tank on top of the Cecil Hotel. On this channel, I did one upload on the case of Elisa Lamb, and we talked about the possibility that she, well, I would say that we talked about really just kind of like sort of the social media aspects, but I always believed from the start that Elisa Lamb died from accidental death, and she was one of the biggest reasons why I started this channel, because we had something, where I was really just examining all the footage. I examined all the sort of commentaries. I watched the movie Dark Water, and I just, like many other YouTube commentators, like many other just people following the case, we all came to the same conclusion that it was an accidental death. Horribly, horribly bizarre details surround that one, though. Like, she was promoting, sort of the Harry Potter Cloak of Invisible technology on her Twitter feed about, like, is the government trying something out? There, and also the tuberculosis outbreak that was near the Cecil Hotel, which they had to bring in the, what was it, the National Guard or FEMA or something? And the name of the kit that they used to test for tuberculosis is the Lam Elisa test. If that is true, I'm not really sure if that's... It's been a while since I've done the Lisa Lamb. But what I would say, though, is most fascinating about true crime to me is just, when you actually feel like you actually can contribute a theory that might have ability. And I really began thinking that after covering the case of Elisa Lamb, when I just began looking at the footage and I was ruling out, major possibilities, ruling out the possibility of an attacker. which we're still not 100% certain anything's possible, but Elisa Lam's family firmly believes that she was murdered. Sorry, did I say that out loud? They firmly believe that it was an accidental death. She fell off her medication and she ended up, in the water tank. I believe she voluntarily entered the water tank because that particular hotel left the tanks open. There's another very interesting case that involves a body of water where a girl was found dead, and that was Kaylin Lauder. Kaylin Lauder was someone, who I haven't talked yet about on this channel yet because, I mean, the enormous difference between Elisa Lam and Kaylin Lauder is we have audio of Kaylin Lauder, not only video, but we also have, phone calls that she made prior to her death, and you can just hear how disoriented she is. She's kind of in, forgive me for saying this word, but a deranged state. And we really just want to recognize that when people are disoriented near a major body of water, the risk of death is so much higher. It could be drowning, but it could also be a variety of other things. And speaking of another death near a body of water, I would hope to get back to the case of Lauren Agee, but because I was almost feeling like after I did my 4 or 5 uploads, I really felt I was making some progress on that, but the thing is, I just can't keep up with Sheila Wysocki, who is doing the Without Warning podcast. And in short, when I tried to discuss this in some other places on the internet, everybody was telling me, everybody was just saying, you got to hear Sheila Wysocki in the Without Warning podcast. That's the only thing they're saying to me. And I just couldn't keep up with that one because of some other, some other things going on. And I did a lot of commentary about the 2018 midterm elections, which I have to confess, that was a bit of a flop for my performance. I could have done maybe some things in a little bit of a better light. Perhaps I could have done things in a bit of kind of a more entertaining manner discussing about the elections, because I know those things aren't super popular, but you just got to talk about some things sometimes. Sometimes you just can't stay silent about certain things, and that just kind of happens. But when we look at other things that are going on in the particular world, I do want to talk more about Andrew Yang. I'm really, putting up many uploads about his concept of universal basic income, and he's going to be getting more and more popular as the election heats up in 2020. And once again, I think we're actually making some strides of progress when we're discussing these issues, and we're actually making some strides of progress when we're sort of sharing these particular aspects of the campaign. But I have to confess, though, this channel, like BBOR, Black Box Online Radio, is somewhat of a kind of, what's the exact word? What's the exact word? It's kind of a bizarre combination that I created here in the sense that we have true crime, but we also have, the presidential election. I don't necessarily think that those things go together too well. When I first created this channel, I was hoping that it would be something more like international affairs or something, like CIA stuff. And I talked about that a very little bit. I mean, I did a few things, just kind of criticizing some things that were orchestrated in the quote-unquote deep state back in 2017. We also talked about, Russiagate in the news, but that didn't really last because what happened was, the honest answer about what happened was I got involved with the case of Missy Beavers, something that I have not talked about in a very long time. Missy Beavers was the single largest case that I ever got in terms of viewership on this channel. Like the uploads that I did on Missy Beavers definitely had the largest following, that definitely had the largest amount of viewership. It's a very, very sensitive case because, somebody, who was it? That guy's name has escaped me, who said this kind of brilliant quote. The case of Missy Beaver stands out to us so much because we have the video, but we have a video of a man in a church and who murdered someone wearing a police vest. So he's like taking things like the church and the police, and you're turning that into sort of places that should be safe have now become unsafe. People who should be safe became unsafe. So it's kind of just an insult to the entire concept of community. Not to mention, Missy Beavers was murdered, just for showing up to work. And, one of the reasons why I haven't talked about that case lately, other than the Q&A that we did a couple months ago, was because I really think that with this particular case, they're going to be making some major developments in the police. The police are going to be kind of getting closer to solve the case, and I'm kind of waiting to hear some more things about that. But yeah, Missy Beavers just kind of overwhelmed me, and like I just couldn't stop talking about it. I've done 7, 8, maybe 9 uploads on Missy Beavers. I don't remember exactly, but what I would say is that what I would say is it's like the Zodiac Killer. I just can't stay away from it. But Missy Beavers was a very large turning point for the channel. I mean, I put up a few uploads once again about, global events. And some of the other things we talked about in the very beginning were just Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. I even did 2 uploads on Mike Pence. But you like, once again, those things get a very small reaction. The market is horribly saturated with political things, and you don't need to listen to Black Box Radio to learn about anything associated with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, unless it's, something genuine that I feel that I have something genuine to contribute. When we kind of come at it from this particular perspective, what we can say is that with true crime, I felt that I was actually, contributing something to the theoretical discussions, like putting forth a theory that might actually have some value in it. And I don't ever really put out theories that I don't believe. I don't ever put out any theories that I don't think could possibly be true. I guess yesterday I did do Ted Cruz was the Zodiac Killer, but that was totally a joke. And normally I'm very, very open about I genuinely believe this theory versus this is just something that I'm kind of thinking about that I can't stop thinking about and I can't get rid of. And I really think it's important to differentiate that because most people on the internet don't. You never know when someone is kind of just being satirical or they genuinely believe it, or you don't know if someone actually thinks something is a good idea or they're just making something up to get a desired result out of the audience. On this channel, I've also been very tempted to discuss some other things associated with the IDW, the intellectual dark web. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know what people in on this particular channel would want to hear if we were going to be talking about things like Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro. I don't really know if they would want to hear that. I mean, that would pretty much just turn the channel from a true crime channel into just my own personal vlog, but I don't really think anyone needs to listen to my personal vlog. I mean, if I want to do something like this once in a while, maybe once or twice a year, that's enough. I mean, I think that the people on the internet that are going to be tuning into a podcast that has a little black box instead of, the flashy imagery are going to really want to hear some very solid theories. And, once again, I really have to insist that the things that if I would just wish I could share anything with anybody, I would really say the stuff that I did about Brandon Lawson. I would love to discuss that theory more, and the JonBenet Ramsey intruder theory. I mean, I really think that that's something that is really standing out a lot. Also, the murder of Marcia King, the theories that we put forward about that, and I really just believe that those are some of the things that are really contributing to the discussion, and they're really just coming at this from sort of, I don't know, maybe we're actually getting somewhat closer to understanding what was going on with those 3 cases. Another one that I haven't talked about on this particular channel was the case of Tara Calico, the Polaroid girl. Tara Calico went missing, and then, I believe it was in Florida about 6 months later, they found a Polaroid photo of a girl who was seemingly bound and tied up and looked like Tara, and that was one that I really thought I also provided some genuine commentary. Spoiler alert, I don't believe that she was the girl in that photograph, and I do actually kind of believe kind of more of the Rene Rivera theory, but we can discuss that later on the channel. Well, there are a lot of things that are really going on with true crime. Sadly, these things never stop, and on a personal level, I have to say that I love the commentary episodes that I've done, and once again, those things don't get the most views, but I did something on the murder of Alan Berg when, it's like he was murdered by a group called the Order in the 1980s and very old. It's totally solved. I was just kind of talking about the case in the general discussion ways, but Alan Berg, Braulio Castillo, Abby Hernandez, all of these individuals, where it's just the case has been solved, but you're just sort of talking about how true crime affects society, or what drives people to do these destructive actions, what makes people, so dangerous on this level. And that's something that I find fascinating, absolutely. Also on BBOR, we've done the Occult Mondays segments. And with Occult Mondays, these are things where it was really supposed to be kind of exploring more things like haunted house stories, ghost stories, and also paranormal encounters and things of that nature. But when we actually got into a little bit more of it, like, I mean, I said I was not going to be talking about, anything like religion, and I also said, that I wasn't going to be, what was that other thing that I also said that I wasn't going to discuss, like, well, anyway, the problem is I talked way too much about, just the science of good and evil. And that just wasn't really anything that I had planned when I thought I would do something like that. But there it is, I mean, there it is. That just kind of happened. I guess it's sort of you tell yourself you can't do something, and then you have to do it. We did the three signs of a cult leader. That is another video that I absolutely I don't know. I really loved what I said in that video. It only got like 3 views, but I mean, you don't even have to watch that one. I mean, it was kind of giving some, once again, commentary on some other points that were put forward about cult leadership from an individual named Sean McCraney. But, I enjoyed it all the same. I enjoy the Occult Mondays thing, but I really recognize that I'm sounding a little bit too religious and not occult enough. I really thought I was just going to be exploring cases once again about, dealing with kind of things like exorcisms, maybe that would be as religious as it gets, and also poltergeists. And we did cover the murder of Elise Paler on that channel. Who Elise Paler was a girl who was murdered because at first we heard the lyrics from the band Slayer, but then we learned that actually one of the individuals who murdered her just had this over infatuation with her, and he was just kind of went psychotic and berserk, for lack of a better term. Now, when we get to some other true crime cases, I also recognize that I do way too many murders. True crime cases, murders, those go. I'm a very big skeptic on things like that, when it comes to something such as 9/11 truth. But I was listening to a Q&A session with Danielle Howland, and they asked her that question. That was one of her Q&A questions. What is one subject you would never do? And then she said 9/11 truth. So instantly I thought, holy crap, I wish Danielle Howland would do 9/11 truth, especially from her perspective. So, like, once you can't have something, you kind of start to want it a little bit more. Well, I'm going to be coming to the end of this recording soon, but, well, that's all for me now. Thank you so much, and until next time.